What, we some kind of suicide squad?
I am Iron Man.
You are a toy!
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
Server Anakin! I have the high ground!
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
I'm simply saying that life, finds a way.
Welcome back to the Big Movie Boys podcast, the only podcast trying to catch its big break. I'm your host, Jeremy Baumann. With me, as always, is Bob. Have you guys ever noticed Liebel?
Hey, Jeremy, make sure you fucking hit record.
And Ben, isn't it funny how Stitch?
What's going on out there, boys and girls?
And joining us this week is Eric Baumann.
I hardly know her.
We've got a bunch to talk about this week, including my punishment review of Bright. Warner Brothers releasing all of their 2021 movies on HBO Max, our favorite comedy specials of all time, and a review of The King of Comedy. But first, Rick, it is a pleasure to unofficially have you back and officially have you on the Big Movie Boys podcast.
Thanks for having me on for a first time.
And I promise you, I hit record. Whether or not this episode comes out, I make no promises on that, but I am recording audio as we speak.
Nobody is there to see it, so we have no idea if that's true.
Well, you're just going to have to trust me. And why would I lie to you when this episode is going to start with my review of Bright? And goddamn, was this a punishment. I know, Bob and Ben, I know you guys haven't seen it. Rick, have you seen Bright?
I tried. I really did.
How far would you say you got into it?
15 minutes. Once I realized, the whole premise was, racism against alien creatures, and, it was
orcs.
Just bad. Whatever. I just didn't nothing about it said to me, hey, keep watching.
No, you're not wrong there. If I had the option to stop watching, I definitely would have.
I wanted to see it.
I just want to put in there that it looked all right when it first came out, and I just want to point out that the last time Eric was on, I was supposed to watch this movie after that podcast, and thank God Jeremy didn't hit record.
This is truly a punishment for that, more than it was for last week's challenge. So for that reason, I'm not complaining. I did earn this one. Just a couple stats for you guys before I get into my review here, just to paint you a picture on how god-awful this movie is. This has a 29 on Metacritic. It was written by Max Landis, who you might know as the writer of Chronicle, and as being an alleged sex offender.
I remember Chronicle. That was a banger.
Whoa!
Yeah, we all know how much I really hate that movie. It's also directed by David Ayer, the director behind Suicide Squad. So these are the
fantastic movie.
These are the creative minds that came together to make Bright. Ooh, and honestly, that's enough to make you not want to watch this, but unfortunately I did, and here's what I have to say about it. Only a Bright can control the power of the wand. That is the quote that precedes this movie, and that is the exact moment I regretted not guessing Gladiator in last week's challenge. For those of you fortunate enough to not know anything about this movie, it takes place in a world not too different from our own, except for the fact that magic wands and fairy tale creatures such as orcs, elves, centaurs, fairies, and dragons exist. Other than that, literally everything else is the same. The existence of these creatures has had no effect on the history of this world, which is proven when they reference the fact that the Alamo happened, and the movie Shrek still exists. Shrek, the animated movie about fairy tale creatures, exists in this world where fairy tale creatures are real. The movie opens with Logic rapping over a montage of the most explicit graffiti ever created that lets us know that everyone hates orcs and elves are the superior species. One piece reads, "In the beginning, God created all races equal," in parentheses, "but elves are more equal." The entire movie tries to be an allegory for racism, and exactly 0 people who watched this movie were shocked to learn that it was written by a white guy, because it's about as subtle as a brick to the face. The orcs are clearly meant to be an analog for black people or other minorities. Elves, on the other hand, live in exclusive communities, and they're all rich and dressed like people in the Capital District in the Hunger Games. Also, they seem to imply that regular racism between humans doesn't exist, even though every minority group in the movie still seems pretty disenfranchised if you ask me. Also, Will Smith kills a fairy with a broom while saying fairy lives don't matter today. The story kicks in when a magic wand is discovered by Will Smith and his orc cop partner, and the rest of the cops want to kill Orc Cop to take the wand for themselves. Will Smith ends up killing 4 cops to protect the wand, but then a neighborhood gang decides they want the wand, and instead of killing Will Smith, they wait for him to get back into his car so they can chase after him. They also have an elf girl with them now who originally had the wand, and she is entirely useless for about the next hour and 15 minutes. The majority of the plot is just a series of scenes that often feel like a dream because you're not really sure how or why you got there, and you're just hoping you wake up soon so it can be over. They escape a group of people trying to steal the wand from them, only for another group to start chasing them. And that is essentially the middle hour of this movie. At different points, they are being chased by the police, a Latino gang, an orc gang, the FBI, and an elf cult. At one point, Orc Cop gets shot, but the elf girl, who hasn't said or done anything or had any reason to be in this movie so far, uses the magic wand to save him, and even Will Smith is like, why didn't you use that thing the 15 other times we almost died? There's also this whole other plotline where Orc Cop has been ostracized from the orc community for becoming a cop, but now that he's been resurrected, apparently they're all cool now. After a bunch of other nonsense, the evil elf lady, who's the biggest bad guy trying to steal the wand, catches up to them, and even though we watched her and her goons take out an entire SWAT team earlier, they struggle while fighting Will Smith and Orc Cop. Eventually, when all hope seems lost, Will Smith decides to risk it all and picks up the wand, which he's able to wield because it turns out he's a Bright, and literally everybody saw that coming from the beginning. He kills the evil elf lady and accidentally kills the good elf who was hanging around with them, and he seems really distraught about it, even though the two of them maybe had a combined 5 lines of dialogue between each other the whole time. In the end, Will Smith and Orc Cop are given medals, and they also hold a ceremony for all the cops Will Smith killed, hailing them as heroes for some reason, and that's where the movie ends. Other than Will Smith, I'm pretty sure everyone is still super racist against orcs, but maybe they'll fix that in the sequel. Fuck this movie.
Damn, Jeremy, I'll be honest with you. That was like a punishment listening to you read your review. That sounded like fucking horrible.
Yeah, I dozed off a little bit.
Yeah, I almost fell asleep. But when I saw the previews for this movie, like when it was coming out on Netflix, I didn't know it was going to be that in depth. I didn't know there was all that stuff. It just looked like a Will Smith cop movie with some sort of like supernatural quality. Yeah, with like an alien. And I didn't know it was like fairy tale related, but that sounded fucking really not good. How long was it?
It's like an hour and 45 minutes or something like that.
Ooh. How much do you think they paid Will Smith for this movie? $2 billion?
I hope so. There was a point where I was like, how do I even summarize this movie in, like 500 words or so? And I was like, well, they didn't even do a good job of explaining it in an hour and 45 minutes, so there's no fucking way I can summarize it. But yeah, overall it's garbage and nothing really makes sense. It's just kind of a series of scenes with really ham-fisted racism metaphors that ultimately amount to nothing. Does that check out with the first 15 minutes you watched, Rick?
Yeah, I try to block it out of my memory. But it didn't seem like it was worth watching, and it didn't even seem like it was worth listening to you talk about it, to be honest.
Apparently it wasn't. I was kind of expecting you guys to chime in every now and then, but I wasn't sure you guys were still on the call.
I think my biggest question out of all that was, is his name just Orc Cop?
No,
or whatever the hell
I think it's Nick.
Oh, okay.
Nick, the Orc Cop?
Yeah, exactly. So I thought Orc Cop was better.
I have a question for you.
Please.
How would you compare Will Smith's performance in Bright to his performance in Suicide Squad? Both great movies.
I would compare it to every performance Will Smith has ever given, particularly in an action movie like this, where he was very Will Smith.
Is he, okay, what's the better Will Smith cop movie, Bad Boys or Bright?
Never seen Bad Boys, so that's gotta be it.
Okay, I got another question. Who plays Nick the Orc Cop?
Joel Edgerton.
Get the fuck out. This movie wasn't good?
No, remember who I said wrote and directed it?
Joel Edgerton is the man, though. Joel Edgerton is Will
the
Smith.
man.
Yeah, that's a good looking cast.
Well, Joel Edgerton is completely covered in prosthetics the whole time, so...
What a waste of his good looks. God damn it. That's really where the movie went wrong, is not showing... It should have been Will Smith as the orc and Joel Edgerton as the regular cop.
Well, maybe for
Why the fuck would Will Smith have been in the movie?
I don't know. They're paying him $5 billion. He doesn't give a shit. They'll do whatever they want. Will Smith is just in this game for money. You think he gives a shit what movie he's in these days?
I feel like there was a point where he could have had like this great like Academy Award career and gone for stuff. Like he tried Concussion. I think that movie wasn't anything, but like he should have had like a way bigger career. And now he's just like give me the money, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, when he didn't get an Academy Award for Pursuit of Happiness, I think that was the moment where he was just like, "It's never going to happen. I can't ever do that."
Was that his Adam Sandler Uncut Gem moment where he's like, "Fuck you guys, I'm doing Bright."
Yeah. But like he probably gave up after that. He's like, if I could put a performance like that out there and not win Best Actor with my goddamn son as my co-star, then that was it for him. I think he's just like, yeah, I'm going to be making Bad Boys 3 and 4 and Bright.
To give credit to Adam Sandler, I guess, Bright is way worse than Hubie Halloween.
Really?
Wow. Is it because it tries to be something more than Hubie Halloween tries to be?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay.
One more question for you, Jared. Is there anything that you actually did like about, like, there's any redeeming qualities at all?
The soundtrack for this movie isn't terrible. Like, the collection of songs aren't terrible. They're not used well in the movie. They don't work well in the movie. But if you just look up the soundtrack, it's decent.
Hold on, I gotta tell you guys something. Little peek into last week's podcast. My dad just texted me. He goes, "I'm listening to your podcast, and yes, I have seen the movie Rounders many times while I play poker at my friend's house."
And the fuck wasn't that in his top 10?
I don't know. He literally just texted me that right now in the middle of recording.
All right, well, that's more than we needed to discuss a movie that no one wanted to watch. Let's talk about some movies we do want to watch. And even if we don't want to watch them in theaters, we can watch them on HBO Max, because Warner Brothers announced, along with Wonder Woman coming out later this month, all of their 2021 releases will be on HBO Max the same day that they're in theaters. That's pretty game-changing in
pretty huge
movie distribution. I think that pretty much makes HBO Max a must-have next year. Granted, the list isn't, blow your socks off good, but there's 4 or 5 on here I'm genuinely excited about.
Yeah, Jared, hit him with it. Let's hear them.
I won't read all of them. I think there's like 17, but some of the ones I highlighted. There's a Mortal Kombat movie coming out next month.
That's the one I'm most excited for.
The Tom and Jerry live-action thing might be good, might be a garbage kids movie, comes out in March.
It's going to be awful because I love Tom and Jerry. I don't want them to ruin it.
Did you see the preview?
No.
It looks really fucking shitty. I'm sorry to break it to you. It looks bad.
Godzilla vs. Kong coming out in May.
We need another one of those.
In the Heights. Doesn't seem like my cup of tea, but I know people are excited for it. It comes out in June. Space Jam: A New Legacy in July.
Yes, finally.
That's going to be great.
The Suicide Squad, the James Gunn one, in August. Dune, which was supposed to come out this month, coming out in October. And the 4th Matrix movie coming out in December. So that's just a little taste. But all of those sound pretty good to me.
I have confusion because what if midway through the year we get like a coronavirus vaccine and like everything goes back to normal? Like, are they going to still commit to keeping these on HBO Max, or are they going to say, fuck it, let's put it back in the theaters? Like, what if 6 months from now it is feasible to go back to movie theaters? Are they still going to keep this release schedule of HBO Max? Because I think they should, because this is fucking awesome. This is the future of movies anyway. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I feel like we got to find a way that they can make just as much money if we just stream them at home. Like, honestly, how great would that be if you could just do that? Not have to go. I mean, I love the experience of going to the movie theaters, but I feel like within like the next 15 years, coronavirus probably isn't helping, but I feel like it's gonna be over eventually. Like, I feel like movie theaters are gonna die.
As far as I know, they're committing to it through 2021. Personally, I would be shocked if they don't continue it even after that. I feel like this is gonna probably become the new standard. I know Disney has their big investor meeting in a week or so, and I would not be surprised if they weren't already considering doing something like this, they may have just been pushed to doing something like this with Disney Plus.
This could be the domino. Like, this really could be what changes it and makes it. This is the exclusive way movies are released now, is on streaming, which would be nice.
I mean, there's a few movies on this list that I think I'd I would still see in a theater if it were feasible. Dune being one, especially.
Yeah, I was interested in that too.
Matrix 4 potentially. I mean, we'll kind of have to wait and see what the trailers and stuff, how they kind of sell these movies. But there's a couple that, given the option, I still might go to a theater personally. But I understand, I've posed the question before. I don't know if most people view going to a theater as a premiere, viewing experience so much as they see it as, well, this is where I have to go to see this movie unless I want to wait, 4 months for it to come to DVD or to come to streaming. I think they see it more as like an exclusivity thing as opposed to a premiere viewing experience with a better screen and better sound.
But that's when you say that, that's like the reason I go to movies. I feel like when you I would rather watch it at my house, like just for conveniency, because if the movie's not good, you're kind of like, fuck, I wish I wouldn't have spent like $25 to come here. But like when you have like when you're really excited for a movie, I think that's when you go to the movie theater. So it's sad thinking about them like dwindling down and it almost becoming like a throwback experience in like 15 years when we have kids and we're talking about it and we're like, remember when we went to movie theaters with our family and shit like that? And now it's like, oh, there's like one in town and it's all like you'd have to get tickets in advance.
Right.
But with Bob's point, like, and even Jeremy's point, like, I'm more likely to watch these movies. Like even Wonder Woman, I didn't watch the first Wonder Woman, and I'm more likely to watch this one because it's like, okay, it's a premiere. There's nothing else new coming out really. Let me watch it at my house.
But you would have never. You would have never went and watched Wonder Woman 1 and then went and saw 2 in theaters.
Exactly.
But because it's on streaming.
Yes, I would have never went to the movies for that one. Correct. Or even like Dune. Like you guys were more high on Dune. And that's a movie like I would definitely see then. So I like could talk about it with my friends. And like then Jeremy has the option, or Bob, you have the option. Rick, I guess you're still on the line. If like to go watch that, if you want to see that in a better experience, but then I can still talk about it with you guys. So I think it's like overall a better thing for like mankind moving forward. It's sad we're like leaving something behind, but I feel like it's just better going forward.
Yeah, at the same time, it's like you probably wouldn't have seen Dune in theaters. Like me and Jeremy might have went and saw it, but like that's a movie you probably would have stayed away from unless you were like doing it on the podcast or something. But now, if you can watch it in your living room, you'd be like, okay, fuck, like I'll throw it on, I'll see what happens, like because it's not as much of an investment of like driving to the movie theater, sitting down, paying all this goddamn money, getting all that. You know what I mean? Like you can. I feel like,
especially because it's not like an extra fee like how Disney Plus did with Mulan.
Right. I'm so happy they got rid of that. Oh my fucking God. That's huge for HBO. I really think that is going to be, like Jeremy said, how Disney's got their big meeting to decide, like, I don't know what's coming in the future. I think they will follow suit. It just only makes sense. It only makes sense.
Where do you land on this, Rick?
Yeah, I agree. Kind of said most of what I was kind of thinking. I think a lot more people are going to see movies that they probably wouldn't have with this. You're going to get all the people who really want to see the movie going to the movie theater for that experience, with just the better sound and screen and everything. But people who didn't want to see the movie bad enough weren't going to go to the theater anyway. But it's on, and they thought it looked all right. They're gonna put it on if they already have the subscription. And I think a lot of people will get HBO Max just to get these movies.
I think it makes sense. HBO Max has got a lot of quality stuff on it, so if you didn't have it already, 2021 is the time to get on it.
Yeah, Bob, find someone with a password.
I asked you idiots for a fucking password. You didn't give it to me.
Honestly, it's weird. Last time we watched an HBO Max movie, like my sign-in would not work with my parents, and like they're watching it fine, so I don't know what the fuck's going on. So I'm gonna have to figure that shit out.
Well, maybe we can suggest some other things to watch on HBO Max or other streaming platforms, because we're going to discuss our favorite comedy specials. And I don't know, we don't have a very organized way to go about doing this, but do you guys just want to kind of talk us through your process and how you narrow down some of your favorite specials, Rick?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, I got my list. Let me pull it up. So, kind of categorized about my favorites recently. We had a couple good ones through quarantine, and I think maybe just before. And then the ones that kind of got me into watching more stand up in general. So the ones more recently, Tom Segura's Ball Hog is fantastic. It is very funny. He's one of my favorite comedians right now.
I think he's one of the best right now, if I'm being honest.
I agree.
Very good.
Same with Bill Burr's Paper Tiger. I've been a big fan of him for a while, but I thought this was just, I mean, you can't really go wrong with any of his specials. One of my favorites by him. Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question? Because I'm a big Bill Burr guy too. It's
you got me.
Obviously, it's another
Bill Burr.
podcast I have, the Big Bill Burr podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Or Big Bill Burr movie boys. Shit.
Wait, I got it. The Big Bill Burr boys.
The Big Bill Burr boys.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah, I do. That one comes out every Tuesday, so look for that one. But I never watched Paper Tiger though, because like I don't know if it was his last one before that or what that one was called, but I didn't love it as much, so I was like, I stayed away from it. But is Paper Tiger like? Is it classic Bill Burr?
I think Paper Tiger's really good, personally.
He has so many though.
So I wouldn't say it's classic Bill Burr because he's definitely changed from what he was, just the older white guy just screaming and yelling and complaining about everything in his life. That's kind of gone from what he does now.
Really?
Yeah. I think he talks about it, Paper Tiger, but he's got a kid now and he's married, so like it kind of
I know those things
shifts his perspective.
Oh, because I didn't really only know like classic Bill, because Ben introduced me to Bill Burr, and like that's what I think of is I loved him just like his old style. I guess it sounds like he's changing, which is always good for comedians, but
he's not completely changing. Not to say that that's not like a part of like his act, and
right.
I'd say it's a pretty heavy part. I think it was basically the main part of his older ones, like Why Do I Do This or Let It Go, which were, I mean, both great.
Yep.
I'm Sorry You Feel That Way is probably one of my favorites of his. I think you're talking about Walk Your Way Out. Was the one before Paper Tiger. I like that one. But that was just definitely him changing a little bit. But it's still, I think he still does a great job. He's still doing everything that he's done in the past, just maybe not as rampant on just what you would think of Bill Burr of old, I guess.
Yeah, because I think like the high school side of me who fell in love with Bill Burr loved him because I'm an idiot. So it's like if you just say fuck a bunch of times, I'm gonna laugh when I'm in high school. So I get the idea of him becoming a better comedian because he's like his jokes are sharper rather than just like playing into his audience.
Mm-hmm. No, that's definitely it. Not that he was a weak comedian back then.
No, yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely changing a little bit. But I think he's changing for the better, in my opinion. So those are the newer ones for me. Older one, Dave Chappelle, Killing Them Softly, I think is his best.
I think we all probably had Dave Chappelle, if not on our short list, then on our longer list, at least one of his specials.
Mm-hmm. Let me see here. Kind of near the stand-up comedy scene is a show called The Green Room with Paul Provenza. The setting of it is like 5 or 6 comedians, all very big comedians, just talking in a circle in a large meeting room, or auditorium, whatever you want to call it, and the entire audience is stand-up comedians.
What's the name of this? Because this sounds interesting.
It's called The Green Room with Paul Provenza.
What's it on?
It was on Showtime. It was
okay.
Had 2 seasons, 2010 and 2011. Got canceled.
Oh, so it's a little older.
They're all on YouTube though, which is how I watch them. I probably found this, I don't know, 4 years ago maybe. But just to give you a quick guest list, on the first episode of season 2, they had Judd Apatow, Bo Burnham, Mark Maron, Ray Romano, and Gary Shandling.
Wow.
That's the only episode I've seen.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best ones. And just to name a few, and just scattered throughout, Bill Burr, Tommy Chong, Joe Rogan, Russell Peters, Dana Gould, Drew Carey, Jim Jeffries, Penn Jillette, Jimmy Carr. Like every big name back in 2010 was on it.
Wow.
Also, older ones like Tommy Smothers, who was kind of out of the game at that point. Rain Pryor, the daughter of Richard Pryor, the godfather of comedy. She was on it. Andy Dick. Like a lot of people, like the biggest people at that time were all on it at some point or another.
Yeah,
Definitely worth a watch.
Like I said, I've only seen the episode with Bo Burnham on it, but that was very entertaining.
That sounds
vouch
really
for that
cool,
one.
like as a concept. I'm surprised. I mean,
I feel like that's a really good way to introduce like younger people or like to new comics, because like it gets Jeremy to watch like Bo Burnham on there, and then maybe he finds like 3 other people.
I learned about Ray Romano.
Exactly. Exactly. I feel like a show like that should exist now to just get, because especially Netflix, like how they have like Netflix is a joke. I just feel like they could put on a show like that, and then get a bunch of people to just be into a lot more comics.
I could see a variant of a show like this being brought to something like Netflix, and doing very well.
It definitely should. But the problem with it, from a critic standpoint, I guess, was it seemed like the audience watching was almost a step removed. Like it was a whole bunch of comics speaking about stand-up comedy, and you're looking into a conversation that you're not a part of.
I totally know what you mean. Yeah, that sounds.
That's Bob every podcast.
Yeah. What are you guys talking about?
You're trying to sit at the cool kids table, but they don't want to talk to you, type thing. So it only had 2 seasons, but I think each episode is good in its own right. There are a couple that are stronger than others, and then they had a couple music acts, like music comedians, and they'll perform at the end. Definitely worth a watch. If you just want to watch like one of your favorite comedians talk, and then you'll get sucked into a hole. I think I watched it because Bill Burr was on it, and then I ended up watching all 14 episodes.
That'll get you. Anything else on your list there?
The last one I had isn't really stand-up, but it kind of got me into comedy, like away from comedic movies and just into comedy as like, I guess, an art form. And it's Whose Line Is It Anyway? The original with Drew Carey. Absolutely loved it. I'll still watch like Whose Line's best moments, like the 3-hour one on YouTube. Just throw it on.
That stuff's timeless.
Yeah, I can't go wrong with that. Ryan Stiles, the legend.
Fun peek behind the Big Movie Boys curtain. One of the only segments to ever be cut from an episode was when we tried to improvise movie pitches. Did not go as well as the guys on Whose Line.
It is a damn shame, though, because me and Ben possibly came up with the greatest movie of all time. That needs to be released, Jeremy. The public needs to hear this.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, that might be like 100th episode.
Yeah,
like gift or whatever. But yeah, like something like that it makes you more appreciative when after you like strike out and do stupid shit. And then when you watch improv, you're like, holy shit, how are they doing that?
It's hard as fuck. Yeah, we can speak from experience. It isn't easy.
I got one more on this list, but I don't want to bring it up until everyone kind of talks about theirs, because I think it'll get into a different conversation. So remind me about that one.
Okay. Anyone else want to volunteer to go next?
I'll go next.
Ben, you take.
Bob, you're gonna be longer.
Okay, Ben, you go.
I'll be shorter.
Fuck me, sorry.
I listed my favorite comedians, and then I just like gave my favorite, or like what introduced me to them more. So Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr is my second favorite. John Mulaney is my third favorite. I think he's hysterical. Anthony Jeselnik, just like a pure joke writer and pure like really bad joke comedy, like just like terrible shit that shouldn't be repeated out in public unless you know the people you're. Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad you brought up Jeselnik, because he was on my longer list, so I thought you might bring him up. But Thoughts and Prayers is definitely
that's
my
the one for him.
That's fantastic. His Eric Clapton joke is one of the best written jokes of all time.
Like his jokes are so well written, and
it's the same. It's the same shtick.
Same joke
for an hour long.
It's the same joke, and it's not the same joke. It's the same idea. Like where you're getting
misdirection
set up,
every time.
But it's just great because he'll set up the joke for like anywhere from like a minute to like 4 minutes. Like he'll set the joke up, and then I think he brings you along on this ride. And the more you watch him, the more you try to guess, and you can never guess what he's gonna say. And
what's this guy's name?
Anthony Jeselnik.
Because from your description, I'm pretty sure I've seen this guy's comedy before, and I want.
I probably showed it to you with him too, because I think I've showed you thoughts and prayers. He has another one that was more recent, Fire in the Maternity Ward.
This guy is fucking hysterical.
Yeah, and I listened.
You guys were describing his jokes, and I was like, that
funny.
Sounds like somebody I've heard before. And then like, yeah, it's the same guy. Yeah, he's funny as shit.
And he's like the only. I listened to Bill Burr's podcast for a while, and then I stopped just because like I got the gist of it then. But like I listened to Anthony Jeselnik's podcast, and I think. Keep ripping him, Bob. And then, but like his podcast is funny too because it's not like it doesn't impede on his stand up where I felt like Bill Burr's did because it felt like the same idea. But and then my last comic that I put down was just Kevin Hart, but in high school. I don't think he's very funny now. I watched his most recent one where he's just in his basement. It was all right, like, but he was like I remember him in high school. I feel like we would watch those specials together and like talk about his jokes all the time. Right. So I think we have to give him credit there.
I still quote his jokes from time to time.
Yeah, like what is the most famous, like,
you ride that motherfucker?
Yeah, and when he's like, "You ever see Long Dick?" Like that shit, like that classic joke. Like those ones always are. Like,
gotta check it into savings.
Yeah, that one.
Mind your motherfucking goddamn business, bitch.
It's like your long titty, no nipple having bitch. Yeah, but so those ones are my favorite, and then just like the ones that I wrote down for his specials were so. I've always liked Dave Chappelle I watched Chappelle's show like when it was on Comedy Central when you're just watching it, but I never really watched his stand up. So the ones that got me more into him were like his newer ones after like Trump was elected and like basically his comeback. So The Age of Spin and Deep in the Heart of Texas. I thought like he was just so cool. He's refined his comedy so much where it's like. He could like not talk for like 2 minutes, and people are still waiting on like pins and needles to hear what he's gonna say, and not
he's more
get
of a
like
public speaker now. I'd say like
exactly. Yeah, he'll do like a special, even his most recent one, like the one about George Floyd. Like he'll only have like 3 or 4 jokes, but you're just like hanging on every word
he's such a respected man, and like everybody knows how fun. Not saying he's not funny now, but he used to be so fucking funny, and he's so well respected in the industry that like he can have these long like. It's almost like he's just a public speaker, you know? And like, like you said, Ben, like he goes minutes without telling a joke, and the jokes are hysterical when they come, but you're just more interested in hearing what this guy has to say. And I think that's
exactly,
he transcends comedy in a different type of way.
And he's the reason I think I'm going to start smoking cigarettes.
He does make it look really cool.
He's our generation's Richard Pryor for sure. Do you guys know why he left like the entertainment scene back then?
When he went to Africa out of nowhere?
Yeah, when he just kind of left without even saying anything.
I don't remember why.
As far as I remember, I think this is correct. Don't quote me on it. He was doing Chappelle's show, and it was doing really, really well. And he was going to sign a stupid amount of money.
I think it was for like $50 million.
It was dumb. Like just a crazy amount of money. But they were going to have more of a say about what was going to happen in it. It was going to be more censored, Chappelle couldn't be Chappelle in the show.
Yeah.
Ironically.
Which is wild that they would even want to do it then, because then it would be worse.
Yeah, it wouldn't be what it was. And he said, no, fuck that. I'm not doing that. And just kind of left because he didn't like the way it was turning where people had a say in his comedy and just kind of bounced and came back and ripping it now again.
Yeah, he's just like, that adds to his like legend. Mystique. And like when he stops doing comedy, because he's the one, he feels like a type, even though he's doing great now, he feels like a type that could just say, I'm done, and then never do it again. And like, we'll always just remember him for that. Like Chappelle's show, his great stand-ups, it feels like he paved the way for like Key and Peele. Like that Key and Peele was like the Chappelle show before Key and Peele existed, obviously. And I don't know, it is sad that did you see recently, like he asked Netflix to take it down off Netflix? Because I was watching it. Yeah. I saw him do like a stand-up thing where it was like, if you really like me, don't watch it. I was like, okay, I actually won't watch it then. And then like Netflix took it down, which I think just speaks a lot to like how.
Isn't it because he wasn't getting paid?
I think it's like, because I forget which, it's like Time Warner, or it's like CBS or something. One of the cable companies owns it, and they weren't paying him. They just owned the rights to it, and like he signed the contract back in the day, so he doesn't own the rights. And then so like they put it on Netflix, and he doesn't get paid, so Netflix took it down, which is pretty admirable.
not that he needs any more money, but at the same time,
It's just the principle of it.
It is exploiting him, so it is right. You know, and yeah, Dave Chappelle is a fuckload of money, but at the same time, yeah, you're exploiting him and not paying him for something that he created. That I agree. Yeah, fuck that. That was cool that they took it down. Netflix is continuing to be is pretty cool.
They're a pretty like big ally of comedians.
It was definitely the principle, and I think he talked about on stage that they put it on without even asking him, and per the contract, they didn't have to pay him, but they easily could have just for because it was his show.
To be nice.
I mean, they have the money, and the amount of revenue, like people watching the Chappelle show, they would have had so many people getting on Netflix just to watch it.
Exactly. I don't know why they should just pay him and then put it back on there.
Yeah.
But Netflix did not have to take it down because Chappelle didn't own it. He called somebody at Netflix, said, "Hey, this is what happened. I'd like you to take it down." They just said, "Okay." So good on them.
Would not expect that.
All right, let me just be quick with these other ones. So New in Town by John Mulaney is one of my favorite ones. I love John Mulaney. I think he's like super funny. I know you guys haven't mentioned him, but
I will, Ben. Don't worry.
Okay, but I do love John Mulaney, and then like that introduced me to him. That's what made me think of him. I think he also is like the Comeback Kid. Those are the only two I know. But New in Town is what makes me think of him. And then Let It Go by Bill Burr is what I can't even think back of like where I was watching Bill Burr. Like, was it on Netflix? Was it too early? Like, I'm trying to think of when I started watching him, but that was like the one that introduced me to him. And it's like he basically introduced me to comedy, and then I think that got me into Louis C.K. And then I don't really watch Louis C.K. anymore. But
take that part out.
but that's what like Bill Burr was like what introduced me to just stand-up comedy in general. And then my last one was what we mentioned it earlier, Thoughts and Prayers by Jesselnick. Just like great joke writing.
Fantastic delivery. He probably has the best delivery of any comic right now.
He does.
I totally agree.
What do you got, Bob?
For me, so I just want to have a quick shout out because actually when I was thinking about all this comic stuff today, I actually saw a comedian right before the fucking pandemic hit, about a month before it. I saw Trevor Wallace in Rochester, New York. He was very, very, very good. It was just funny because you look at him as like a YouTube guy and a Twitter video guy, but he is first and foremost a stand-up comedian. So I wanted to give a quick shout out. I know he's listening right now. Trevor Wallace, you impressed me so much. But anyway, if I'm going to talk about you mentioned John Mulaney, Ben, and I like John Mulaney from Big Mouth. He voices one of the main characters on Big Mouth, and I absolutely love Big Mouth. It's huge. I just started watching season 4 today. John Mulaney is one of the main characters. Nick Kroll is the other main character. Seth Rogen just joined
he's the creator, right? Nick Kroll?
Yeah,
I don't know if John Mulaney is, but
Kroll and Mulaney are. I think they're co-creators of it. It's mostly Nick Kroll's thing, but I think Mulaney writes most of the stuff too. They're kind of like co-writers. Anyway, like I literally love that show so much. I thought it was fucking hysterical. So I was like, okay, let me get some more of this John Mulaney. And then like maybe it was like season 2. I don't know how the years work out, but Kid Gorgeous at Radio City Music Hall by John Mulaney, that special. When that came out on Netflix, and I was just like, I fucking love this guy in Big Mouth. I gotta watch it. So I watched it, loved it. Think he's absolutely hysterical. He's one of my big heavy hitters right now. So I got to give credit to John Mulaney. But a big one that I can't believe nobody else brought it up. I don't know how I'm the first person bringing this up. Chris Tucker. His Netflix comedy special is unmatched. And the only way that could be better is if they brought Jackie Chan himself on stage.
Bob, with much due respect to your favorite comedian of all time, I guess, but I think he's hysterical in roles, but his stand-up just doesn't do it for me.
Okay, let me hit you with another thing that he should do instead of stand-up. Did you hear his jokes about Michael Jackson and his Michael Jackson impersonation?
Yes, he should just be him.
Is Michael Jackson alive? Because I think he is in Chris Tucker's body. Because when he does his Michael Jackson impersonation, if you shut your eyes, holy fuck, that's Michael. Like, it's literally so fucking funny. And I don't know, that's what I love the most is really, I agree, Ben, his stand-up isn't the greatest, but it saves it for me with his Michael Jackson jokes. Because apparently, like in the 90s, they were like, really good friends. I mean, Chris Tucker was super famous back then. Michael Jackson's Michael Jackson. But like the way he tells those jokes, the way he literally sings Michael Jackson songs and dances like Michael Jackson, that entertainment value alone is unmatched. Had to put him on my list. And I also have another comedian Sebastian Maniscalco, which
that's a good one.
It's a good one, but the reason I bring him up is kind of similar because we brought up Bill Burr, we brought up Kevin Hart about how you look at their older stuff and we really used to like it, and like I don't know, Bill Burr not as much, but we mentioned that he's a little different now, and I think Kevin Hart is also a little different now. Ever since Kevin Hart got famous, I feel like his stand-up's not as funny. Sebastian Maniscalco, I think, just crossed that path for me, where I just watched his most recent special. I can't think of what it's called right now, but I listened.
That's what it's called. I can't think of what it's called right now.
Doesn't that sound like a Netflix special name though? But no, but I watched it and I was like, that wasn't that funny. And he's just recently gotten bigger, and I was like, fuck, that wasn't as funny. Like I was super excited for this. But if you look at his old specials, in particular, it's called "Aren't You Embarrassed?" That is literally so fucking funny. Like it's absolutely hysterical. Like. But when you watch that special, it is on Netflix. It's like a smaller club. He wasn't that famous. I think he's fucking kills it. Every single one of his jokes is hysterical. I don't stop laughing the whole time. But he's gotten bigger and bigger. I mean, fuck, he was in The Irishman. You know, like he's kind of like a bigger name now. And I just think that when these comedians get bigger and bigger, like a Kevin Hart, like not so much a Bill Burr. I'm just going off what you guys said, but Kevin Hart's a great example. Kevin Hart, when we were in high school and when we were younger and he wasn't as famous, fucking hysterical. Now that Kevin Hart, I have to go to a football arena to watch him do comedy. I just don't think he's as funny anymore. I feel like, and like another comic I think of, it's like a Dane Cook. Remember when you watch old Dane Cook specials and I'm just like, oh, that's really funny. But then when he got huge, he wasn't as funny. I think comedians, like, some of them get to this point where they get so big, they're not as funny anymore. I don't know if it's because they sell out or like.
It's because no, it's more so because like once you have money, it's like you're not doing like terrible things. Like shittiness is what's funny. When you have like a shitty life and then you can make jokes about it, that's funny. When you're talking about like, oh, I picked one of my 10 cars and went out there. It's like obviously that's not what Kevin Hart's doing, but that's basically what it is. Like these people just become so rich and like kind of out of touch, I think, is what happens.
And that's the reason I put the old Sebastian special on here, because when he first started, I thought he was so fucking funny. But he's just losing it for me lately, and I don't know, maybe he'll come out with a new special and that could change it for me. But I think it speaks to what you just said, Ben. Yeah, I mean, they are out of touch. Like when you're on your come up and you're like a no-name, you can make jokes that relate to everyday people, the people that are watching your specials. But when you live in a fucking mansion with a 5-car garage, what's fucking funny to you? Your life's great. But that's really the 3 specials that, gun to my head that I would talk about. Those are the ones I like. But another thing that this is not a comedy special, but I'm a big YouTube clip guy. Like if a big comedy special comes out on Netflix, I'm more likely to go on YouTube and look up clips, or go on Twitter and look up clips instead of watch the actual special. That's where I get most of my comedy from. But the Comedy Central YouTube page has this segment called "This Is Not Happening." Basically, the premise of it is you get numerous comedians. I mean, there's over like 100 episodes of this thing. And you get on stage, and it's a small club. It's probably like 50 people in there. And you basically tell a quote-unquote true story. And it's just like a really funny story. And all it really is an extended like joke. It's like they range from like 6 to 15 minutes. And it's just like, anybody that you can think of. Like a lot of comedians have done this. And it's just like one long extended joke. It's really funny. There's a guy that does it. His name is Big J Okerson. He's got like 4 or 5 of them on the YouTube page. Absolutely hysterical. But then you get other people like, like more famous people, like Joe Rogan has one on there, and like Keegan Michael Key has one on there. And it's just like a funny story they're telling basically. But like Bobby Lee from Mad TV, like some of those people that it's a lot of like up and comers, and then also a lot of has-beens. So it's interesting, but it's kind of cool to see some of these guys on stage, and they're really easy to watch. You throw it on for fucking couple minutes. Like I said, they're like 6 to 15 minutes they range from. There's over 100 episodes. It's called "This Is Not Happening." I don't know. Me and Eric, I know Eric, you've seen these before. What do you think of them?
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of them. Yeah, they're basically just long stories that quote unquote happened, whether or not they did or not. I think the best ones, and I'll add this to one of my favorite comedians, Joey Diaz. He's got a lot of them on there, or at least a couple.
He does, yeah.
Probably the greatest storyteller in comedy history of all time.
He's funny.
But he's got couple really good ones on there. I'd start with him if you want to watch something, and then you'll just start binging them.
Yeah, you will. Big J. Okerson is my favorite out of all of them because he's somebody I didn't know until I threw these on. He had a story about he broke up with his girlfriend or some shit, and then he went to like South Africa where he had no cell phone reception, and his girlfriend posted his nudes on like Craigslist men seeking men. And then he like comes back to America and he has 50,000 messages on his phone of like dudes trying to fuck him. Like it was literally, it's just like the most ridiculous shit. But yeah, Jeremy and Ben, I know you guys haven't seen it. Well worth it if you were to look into it. And another YouTube thing that I look at, it's Just for Laughs stand up. They post a lot of old comedy clips, and they're like, like 4 or 5 minute clips of like old stand up specials. We mentioned him earlier, Ray Romano. They got old like late 90s, early 2000s, like Ray Romano shit. And like Ray Romano, I think of his TV show and like whatnot. But then you got to think like that guy used to be a really good comedian. That's why he got this TV show. That's why he became famous. He started as a stand-up. So it's interesting to go back and like look at these old clips and be like, oh shit, like that guy did used to be funny. Not really funny anymore for some of the same reasons we brought up where, he probably got rich and famous and couldn't relate to people anymore. But
all that
Ray Romano,
Ice Age money.
Yes, sir. Ray Romano, Kevin James has some old stand-up stuff on there that I was shocked was actually funny. Some old Sebastian Maniscalco, like I mentioned, his older stuff's better. And like on that same YouTube page, you can see some young Pete Davidson, like some like when he was like 16, 17, Pete Davidson. And he's hysterical back then. I used to hate him. I think he's really funny now. I've totally come around on him. And then you can even see some young Tom Segura, no beard, like just like young.
That's like James Harden without the beard.
Yeah, he was ugly as fuck. But it's you see a lot of like more famous comedians when they were younger and they were in their prime, and then you see a lot of people that are famous now when they were just like, getting started. So it's an interesting YouTube page, 4 or 5 minute clips, good to watch. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I'm much more likely to watch clips on YouTube of comedy specials than I am to watch full specials. So that's why I recommend, this Comedy Central. This is not happening. That segment they have on the Comedy Central YouTube page, and Just for Laughs stand up. You got to look into it. It's really good. I'm much more of a clip guy than I am an actual special guy. So that's why I like those.
Bob, you're a special guy to me. Well, I'll knock the first two off my list pretty quickly here. I did on my long list. The only one we didn't cover already was Ricky Gervais's Humanity from a couple years ago.
Love him.
That was hysterical.
I love that stand-up. I can't claim to be like a big, Ricky Gervais boy. It's one of the few things of his I've actually watched. I do recognize him for, having legend status in the world of comedy, but this is one of the few things that I actually watched and found very funny.
His Golden Globe speeches.
Oh man, I've watched that 100 times. Yeah,
I'll probably watch it after we finish recording.
I might as well. Wasn't that this year?
He did like 3 in a row because they kept having him come back and he didn't.
Because he was good.
But wasn't the most recent one that really started going viral? Was that not this year?
No, it was this year.
It was the most recent one.
Yeah.
He so I remember, I think it was 3 years in a row, they all kind of went viral because he just called out all of Hollywood and all kind of the bullshit that they perpetuate. But this one, he knew it was his last one and he was not going to be called back for sure, so he just kind of let it rip.
God, he was great. How he's like, don't come up here and do a long speech.
When he talks about Epstein, he's like, I know he was your friend. Yeah, that stuff's great. And then another shout out to Middleditch and Schwartz, which I have brought up on at least one other podcast.
You got
me to watch it.
Was it not fantastic?
2 of them were good. The other one was It was definitely watchable.
It felt like it could have been like one season. Like they could do another season. I know it's difficult to go out and do all that, but I could have watched a couple more because, like Rick said, yeah, some were better than the others. But there were only 3, right?
Yeah, there's 3. The wedding was the best one.
Yeah, the first one, I think.
So I got like 3 more here. Did anyone else watch Daniel Sloss Jigsaw? Got very big.
I was gonna put that up. That was the one I was gonna bring up.
That's the comedy special that's credited for over 95,000 breakups and 200 divorces.
Mm-hmm.
What is this? I need to listen to this.
Daniel Sloss, Jigsaw. Would you like me to repeat it one more time for you, Bob?
I wasn't listening the first time. Sounds like a horror movie.
Well, Jigsaw, isn't he the character from Saw or whatever? But yeah, it's a comedy special that the through line is kind of this guy's perspective on relationships. Don't know that I agree with him 100%, but I do think it's very interesting, and because of his perspective and getting people to question their own, he has broken up almost 100,000 couples. So I think that says something about it.
Pretty remarkable.
Something that I'm pretty sure Ben turned me on to was Netflix has this series called The Stand-Ups, which are these 30-minute stand-up performances broken into like seasons or whatever. And I believe it's the first episode of season 1 is Nate Bargatze.
Oh, yeah, that's a great 30 minutes.
One of the best 30-minute stand-ups I've ever heard.
I'm assuming this guy's very Italian.
No, he might be Italian, but he doesn't like do the Italian shtick.
Okay.
This dude's his joke delivery, his way of storytelling is just like perfect for me. I think, I don't know, to me, I feel like he's like a better Tom Segura. Is that off base for me to say? And granted, I'm not a huge Tom Segura fan myself, but am I off base on making a comparison there?
I think a comparison could be made. Saying he's better, I mean, might be a bit much for me, but I can see it.
He's got a whole story about a guy who turned his house into like a exotic reptile exhibit.
Oh yeah, it's like a Joe Exotic house before, and he talks about that. That's a great bit.
Oh my god, it's so great. And then my number one, absolutely no competition. Your guys' lists are incomplete without including him. Is Bo Burnham. 3-way tie for my favorite special of all time. Words, 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 What, and Make Happy. The 3 greatest comedy specials to ever exist.
I'll say it, Jeremy. I didn't know what to think when you introduced me to Bo Burnham. He's not my favorite, but whenever you throw like a Bo Burnham clip on, or like say we watch it when we're hanging out, I fucking really like him. Like he's really entertaining. He's funny as fuck. Like, yeah, I really like Bo Burnham. Like you hyped him up a lot to me, and then the few times I've watched him when you've been around, or when I've watched him by myself, he's just. I'm pretty drunk right now, too, by the way, but he's really funny.
I mean, go ahead, Ben.
I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I think I've only watched Bo Burnham specials or anything or clips with Jeremy, and I always do enjoy them. I don't know what like keeps me from going and watching it myself. And it's just funny, like even his movie 8th Grade, like I watched that with Jeremy. Really liked that movie. No way in hell I would have ever watched that movie if Jeremy wasn't like, "Hey, I have an extra free ticket. Do you want to come?" But like that, like it just shows like he's like evolving in a way where it's like he's writing movies, and like I feel like there's like more for him to get into. And
he's an artist.
He's really smart, and he is really funny.
He's an artist. He's a musician. He can obviously write fucking movies. He's a comedian. I think he's just truly gifted in like, I don't know how to explain it, but like some people are just meant for show business, and I think this guy was meant for show business.
He's absolutely my favorite creative person on the planet. I mean, he was like 16 or whatever making YouTube videos, and you can still watch them, and they're still hilarious to this day.
New Math he has on his YouTube channel. It's very, very funny.
Mostly, yeah, ton of songs. Like I said, his 3 specials. His first one came out in 2010. I think he was 18 at the time. Wow. And it's still better than almost anything anyone else has ever put out.
Wow, that's big.
How's he not been put to like a TV show yet?
He wrote his own TV show that was on MTV that nobody watched. I've watched it like 6 times, and it's hilarious. I don't understand why it didn't get, like, I'm pretty sure it was so poorly rated that they just dumped like the last 4 episodes.
When was it on?
Ooh,
I remember
probably in high school still, so maybe like 2013, 2014.
Oh.
I mean, I watched every episode when it came out. I've rewatched it since then. He's one of the 2 comedians I've seen live. Obviously, Ben, we went and saw. I bought a ticket for you to see 8th Grade, and then 2 weeks later, I bought a ticket so Jordan would go see 8th Grade with me. Like, I bought 4 tickets to that movie just so I could see it twice.
We went together. We went to see Make Happy.
Yes, we did. And
that was really good. His country song I'll put on every now and then just because it's so good.
His country song is great. Like, I'll listen to him on Spotify. He's like, his comedy albums from his shows I have saved on Spotify. Like, I will literally put money in and watch anything this guy makes for the rest of his life. I really think he's on another level. But yeah, that's my top. Rick, do you want to take us home with your
oh yeah, I want to hear about
had to
this.
be waited for final pick here?
Yeah, so it was actually Daniel Sloss Jigsaw. Not
sorry about that.
Not that one in particular. Not I wanted to bring it up for a different reason. There seems to be a movement pretty recently of, it's not just stand-up comedy, it's not someone getting on stage telling jokes and stories to make you laugh. It's a lot more like a TED Talk with jokes. Some more than others. I think we talked about with Dave Chappelle, it's more thought-provoking, still very, very funny. He does it probably in the best way anyone can do it, making you laugh and think at the same time. Daniel Sloss, I think Jigsaw is really funny, but there are parts where you're just not laughing and you're just kind of listening and thinking.
There's some very dark moments in that stand-up.
Yeah, still good, but it's less of a comedy show at that point. It's like probably altogether of probably an hour set, like 20 minutes of you just not laughing, and then there's people doing even worse than that, where the whole thing is supposed to be comedy and they'll throw jokes here and there, but 90% of it is talking about social issues. And I was wondering to get your perspective on the transition of stand-up comedy from what it used to be to this now TED Talk with pizzazz.
That's interesting. It seems like a natural progression given the just kind of the state of the world over the last decade or more. I agree with you that some people do it better than others. I would agree that Dave Chappelle is probably the premier example of it. But I think that's just kind of the evolution of it. I don't like it or dislike it, generally speaking. I think there's people who do it better than others.
Yeah, I agree with you, like how Dave Chappelle's the best. And then just speaking to people that I've seen, like Bill Burr will even comment on like stupid things, but at least acknowledge like, don't fucking listen to me. So I think I think comedians have this sense of like self-awareness where they're like, here's my take, but what the fuck do I know? And I think that at least, I think it's a more grounded approach, whereas like then you have like all these people telling you what to think all the time. And it's like, well, why the fuck do I give a shit what you're saying? But like comedians at least have a way of like they can, what's the word? Like acknowledge what you're going through. Like they see what you're going through and then like put a voice to it. Whereas like other people don't understand what's going on, and then they put jokes to it. So I think they actually like are great at pointing out like failures in our systems and everything, but also making it lighthearted where you aren't afraid to look at it. Like whereas like when news is on all the time, like I don't want to watch news. But like if you like put a funny twist to it, like even in like a stand-up special and talk about major things, like I'm more inclined to watch it. Something like that.
I agree with everything that you guys said. To me, the way I look at stand-up comedians, and I've said this multiple times, I think that stand-up comedians are the best public speakers in the entire world. They truly are. Think about how hard it is. Everyone's afraid of public speaking. You ask a normal people, there's some people in the world that would rather die than fucking public speak. Seriously, people like that exist. And if you're a comedian and you have this gift that you can go out there, you can tell jokes, you're not afraid of public speaking. If you have a platform like this, I think in today's day and age with all the social issues that are going on, if you have this type of platform and you're that good of a public speaker, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. And I think it's almost your right and your responsibility to address the social issues that are going on because you have this public platform. So I think in the coming years, and it's obviously, past like 5 or so years, it's more common. I think if you're a comedian and you have that public stage to address social issues, I think it's your right and your privilege and you should be doing it. And I believe, until things finally change and things cool down, I think that that's not going to go away. I think they should be addressing social justice, things like that. And I love to see it. I agree with what Jeremy and Ben said. that Chappelle, and what Eric said, Chappelle does it the best, where you hang on every one of his words. But yeah, I don't see it going away anytime soon. But I think it's sort of going to become the norm. I think if you have that skill that you have a mic in your hand and you have people listening to what you have to say, whether you're telling jokes or not, I think you need to address these things.
I also just think, generally speaking, if a comedian can make me laugh, that's good enough. But if a comedian can make me think about something in a new way or provide a new perspective that makes me question my own, and, the delivery has to be there as well in the way that Dave Chappelle does it for sure. I think that makes me like that person more, makes me want to engage with that person and, consume more of their comedy or whatever they're putting out.
I definitely agree. The problem is there are not many. There's probably 5 comedians right now who do it well. And there's way too many people who don't even like add comedy, but they call it a special. Like, I don't know if you know Hannah Gadsby. Probably
Only by
not.
Name.
Netflix special by the name of Nanette. It's just her preaching about being a victim of all this stuff and tries to make it funny, but none of it's funny, and it's her preaching social issues, being like LGBTQ. Like, she doesn't even do it in a good way. That's the problem. It's turning into...
End of the day, you got to do it in a good way, though. I agree with you there, though, because I mean, like everything I just said about them having this platform and having the ability and the privilege to be able to say what they want to say and have us listen, they still have to entertain us. That's what we're giving you our money for. Like, if you just want to hear people preach about shit, I can go to a fucking street corner and hear some guy preach about shit. But yeah, it's got to be good. But I think that's all up to whoever's listening.
No, I agree. I just think too many people don't do it well enough, and I think there's every day more people are calling them stand-ups, and it's kind of ruining it. Netflix is giving way too many people specials that they don't deserve. Like, it used to be where you had to get a Comedy Central special, and that took years of hard work, and they gave you an hour, and that really like kickstarted your career as a stand-up. But now it's everyone under the sun has a stand-up special. It's not even special. They took the special out of it.
It's a TED Talk with punchlines these days.
Sometimes they don't even have punchlines. That's the problem.
Right.
Well, who does have punchlines? Rupert Pumpkin.
Oh my God, we still got a movie to review.
We do still have a movie to review.
Pumpkin.
People misspell it and mispronounce it. Of course, as I mentioned before, we're going to be talking about The King of Comedy. This movie was released on December 18th, 1982, written by Paul D. Zimmerman, directed by maybe the most popular Big Movie Boys director at this point, Mr. Martin Scorsese.
Jeremy, let me cut you off. Let me give him this proper introduction, because you know what? He's crossed into the upper echelon of Big Movie Boys personas. He is the one, the only motherfucking Martin Scorsese.
Chills. I got chills when I heard that. This movie stars Robert De Niro, Jerry Lewis, Sandra Bernhard, Diane Abbott, among others. As far as I know, none of us had seen this movie before just the last couple days. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct. Yep.
Oh, wow. That's wild. I thought Rick maybe had seen it.
I knew about it, but I hadn't seen it.
Been on the list for a minute.
I had no intention of seeing it, honestly, but I knew the kind of the point of the movie, I guess, like what's really selling. Didn't really know much of the plot, but I knew that it was a movie that had a certain summary, and that's about as much as I knew.
I'm pretty much in that camp as well. I knew it by name. I knew it as a Scorsese movie, and that was about it. I suggested this to Rick because I knew we were talking about comedy specials. I was like, oh, I wonder if I can think of a movie that's, about a stand-up comedian. And then this came up. I was like, Scorsese movie about a guy who's pursuing stand-up? Easy, let's do it. And as much as the story is about a guy pursuing stand-up, I don't think that the movie necessarily is about that, so maybe it's not quite as thematically on point as I had hoped it would be.
Yeah, Jeremy, this doesn't really have a lot to do with comedy.
No, it really doesn't.
It doesn't, but that doesn't make it not a great movie.
Exactly.
Oh, it's fucking amazing.
I still very much enjoyed it. Let's keep it. We'll do a very short, spoiler-free, very brief review. We'll go around the horn, and then we'll kind of open it up entirely. So, Rick, just your brief thoughts as to whether or not you liked it.
I didn't like it at first. I think I didn't realize it was as old as it was, and it kind of took me out for a second. Once it started going, I got into it, kind of felt the mood of the movie, and the end kind of threw me for a loop. I did not see the ending the way it happened, which I won't name right now. But it kind of turned it on me. I don't know if I should have expected it, or I'm an idiot, or it did kind of have a twist ending at the end. But I enjoyed it.
I'll jump in second and also say that like the ending, I guess if you just like read the synopsis and then like we're like, all right, let me think of like a possible ending for this. Like it pops up, but I just went in this movie blind. I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. And then as the movie's unfolding, yeah, it's not like this quote unquote comedy movie. There's parts where I'm laughing my ass off. Like there's really funny parts. It's more so funny to just see Robert De Niro play Rupert Pupkin. Like I think he does it's so great. He does it great. And like the mood of this movie is so unique. And I feel like movies have tried to copy it. I couldn't name it, but I feel like I've seen this movie before, like in another version.
You have.
But
I'll
this
tell you
movie's
what
just
it was.
okay. Thank you. But this movie's just so like unique and like it's like a really well written movie. And like even when he goes on his like side, like he's imagining himself talking to Jerry Langford. Like I love that part of the movie. And yeah, the twist ending, I think it makes the movie better because if you just have it what you think it would be, it just becomes like a movie we could have written, you know, like if we thought of this idea, we could have come up with that ending, but it's tougher to do the ending that they actually did.
Yeah, for me, so this movie has been on my radar for a while. So when I saw Joker, you know, everybody talked about how it was King of Comedy and Taxi Driver were the two movies that Joker was ripping off. So when I looked into them, obviously, and I was just like, oh, Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, like this sounds interesting. And like I read the synopsis, and you read the synopsis for this movie, and that alone should make you want to watch it. You know, like it's just like an interesting concept for a movie. And this has been on my list forever, and I was just waiting for a reason to watch it, you know, and finally got that reason because we're doing it for the podcast. And yeah, it's really good. I mean, this is like really, really, I really enjoyed this movie a lot. Ben mentioned it. It's kind of odd to see Robert De Niro. I think of Robert De Niro in a Martin Scorsese movie, I think of like gangster, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like odd because De Niro is an amazing actor. And like, I only think of him acting well in these mob movies, but then like you see him in this and you're like, no,
and you're
dude,
like, he's like a really good actor.
Oh,
and
no, he's got the chops. He's got the chops.
And it makes me think like he's like semi scary in this movie. Yeah, like he does the crazy things. Like, but like I would be scared of this person because he's clearly off his like rocker.
He plays his character so well. And like even from the get-go, even in that opening scene, you know he's kind of unwell. Like the way I don't even know how to explain. Like the way De Niro delivers these lines, I was just like, okay, yeah, this guy's a little fucked up, you know. Like, but I really enjoyed this movie. Oh man, I really liked this movie. This is almost like a fringe top 10er for me after watching it. I really, really liked it.
I think this De Niro character is gonna make it in show business.
You think he's
Kid's
got a future ahead
chops.
of him?
Kid's got chops, let me tell you.
I think I'm with you, Rick, where I wasn't sold for like the first act, like maybe the first third of the movie. I was like, okay, you know, I had no expectations other than it being a Scorsese movie, and still I feel a little underwhelmed. As it progressed, I was like, oh no, okay, I'm getting into this. Movie ends, I'm like, Scorsese, you did it again. I really liked that. And then like I finished it like last night, so it's been like 24 hours, and all day today I've been like, damn, that was a really good movie. It's still sticking with me.
It's like a movie that shouldn't sit with you because it's like this like stupid, like it's a stupid concept almost. Like it's a smart concept, but like if you really dig into it, it's like, wow, that's kind of crazy. But it's this movie that it sat with me too. I finished it last night too, Jer, and it sat with me all day too. I'm just like, I catch myself like thinking about it during the day, and I didn't think I would when I first started it.
100%. I agree. Robert De Niro was really, really good in it. Maybe because I also think of him as, gangster actor, and in this he's not a gangster. It's one of his most different roles from anything I've seen him do.
Couldn't be farther from a gangster in this.
No, and I was lost. There was one point in the movie where I'm like, is this Robert De Niro? Like, because he looks younger and he's got like a mustache and everything. I'm like, is this even him? Like, am I getting fooled right now? Like, is this a different actor? But yeah, I mean, I ended up really enjoying it. I guess I would definitely recommend it, just to keep it spoiler free for the moment. But yeah, other than that, do you guys just want to go full spoilers now? Just open conversation?
Let's rip it.
Yeah, let's go.
So, I said it from the beginning. This isn't so much a movie about a guy trying to make it in the stand-up world as it is about obsession with celebrity and what it means to be a celebrity. And considering this movie came out in 1982, I'm pretty shocked at like how well those themes were kind of executed in this movie.
Yeah, like, so they follow Jerry Langford around, Jerry Lewis, and like that like scene where it's like him walking and he has to deal with all the people, like I think that's really well done. It's not like over the top. And then it just shows like how crazy people could be, like to think like yeah, like it's a lot of hard work. And then like Rupert Pupkin's mind, he's like, all I need is like a conversation with him, and then I would have my big break. Like it's just people trying to take the shortcut to the big break. And like it's like a real freaky movie because it's like obviously we couldn't put ourselves in like a super celebrity. I feel like musicians especially have to go through this, but it's just like the world you have to live in once you're actually a celebrity. Like you can't even walk down the street. Like that shit would suck.
Easily one of the funniest moments is when he's walking down the street, the lady's talking on the phone, she freaks out. She asks him for an autograph, and he signs something for her, and she's like, oh, you gotta talk to my nephew, you gotta say hello or whatever. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm really busy, I gotta keep moving on. And she's like, I hope you get cancer. Like, just turns on a dime.
Yeah.
That's really how people are, though. But you guys both brought up this scene where he was walking from, his apartment building to the office. I could be wrong here, but in the opening scene where he was getting in his car to drive, he was leaving the building to go to his apartment, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but he was in the car with De Niro. I get it was really busy and people would have followed him all the way home. That's why he's got to get in the car. But like that scene where they're in the car, they talk for a while. But later in the movie, that walk is like it's like a short walk. They show the entire walk from building to building. So that
I don't know if he was necessarily from the apartment to the work one.
Okay, that's
he might have been going from like the work one to like a different one till they go to lunch or something.
They might have a different office from where the studio is, but I don't know that for sure.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that like it must be filmed different place, but that caught me off guard. That was my one nitpick. I had to look for one because I thought this movie was basically I don't know. It was really, really, really good. I really liked it. You guys know it was rated PG?
80s were different.
80s were different. You see half-naked woman.
Weren't they saying? I feel like I heard the word fuck, but I guess maybe I just imagined that.
I don't think they swore. You know what's so weird? Because I mentioned it earlier that obviously like Joker is based off of this movie. And like there was moments where I was expecting Rupert Pupkin to like slash somebody's guts out. Like I don't know, like it just felt like this movie would have been more interesting if it was a little more violent, but it didn't have to be. And that's what made it good. I
found myself Googling Joker because that is the movie that it reminded me of. And Jerry, I know you and me saw Joker together.
Yeah.
I was hammered out of my mind when we saw it, but it made me like Joker less because it felt more of a ripoff.
Agreed.
It made me really
totally
not
agree.
like Joker.
I totally agree.
I didn't make the connection until we started talking about it. Not gonna lie. But yeah, I agree. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Here's a question for you guys. Have any of you seen Taxi Driver?
I have not. But I imagine that'll make me like Joker less.
It was on Netflix.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Taxi Driver is still on Netflix right now. And yeah, they say the two movies that Joker's based off of are King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. And I was looking up Taxi Driver, and that's considered one of the best Martin Scorsese movies. One of the best movies ever. De Niro's in it as well, and that's supposed to be outrageously good. Like that's supposed to be better than King of Comedy. So like, I want to watch Taxi Driver now, but I'm also like, if I see King of Comedy and I see Taxi Driver, I will literally hate Joker because
I was gonna say, Bob, I thought the way you were talking made me think you watched it already, and I'm like,
no, I want to though.
How did Joker win anything? How did it get nominated for anything? Because it makes
like
me legit. There's like giving ode to movie, like giving like an ode to a movie, or like like a wink at another movie. But like this is just straight up like it felt like stealing. I was like, holy shit! Like,
but that makes me think the parts that were original in King of Comedy aren't original because I'll watch Taxi Driver and be like, okay, they stole that too. You know, like I think
like they took two parts of it. And merged it into one movie. I didn't see Taxi Driver, but I do now want to see it as well. But
once we watch Taxi Driver, we're gonna see it's just gonna come together like a puzzle piece.
The only defense I'll make for Joker, not that I need to, but to Ben's point, I think the only Oscars it won were for Joaquin
Best
Phoenix's
actor,
acting and the score, which are independent from this movie. So at least the stuff it won for was, original. But
yeah, but it just makes me mad because I feel like an original Joker movie, like his origin story, could have just been itself a great movie. It could have been a great movie, and then like, who is it? Todd Phillips, is he the director? Like he basically just was like, it was like if I watched King of Comedy right before, and then was like, I can't think of anything. Maybe I could like sneak this in. It just feels like a total ripoff.
It does, and I think Scorsese was like an executive producer on Joker, if I'm not mistaken. And they even
because he directed the first one. That's why.
And De
Niro's in that one too.
He plays like the Jerry Lewis role in this movie in Joker. So yeah, they don't. At least they don't try to hide it.
I guess.
No, he's admitted saying that those are the movies that influence him, but. Damn. Okay, but we gotta stop talking about Joker. Let's talk about this movie. Let's talk about how good this fucking movie was. Think about like this concept. This is what I was thinking about when I was watching the movie. I was like, like I mentioned earlier, the synopsis. If you just read the synopsis for this movie, pretending Joker doesn't exist, this synopsis is so interesting. It sounds like I was like, oh fuck, that's a good idea. Like that's an interesting idea for a movie. I would like to see that transpire on the screen. And like. I don't know. I just feel like I can't imagine. I assume that King of Comedy is not a ripoff of any other older movie. So like this was an original idea that Martin Scorsese came up with. This is such a cool idea for a movie. It plays off of like our obsession with celebrities. It does have your hints of like comedy in New York City and like New York City stand-up and stuff like that, and then like talk show hosts, and I don't know, it's just like such a cool idea. And like for me, I was so interested in this movie. I like this movie so much because I look at Scorsese and I see the gangster movie guy. He makes good gangster movies that I like, like shit like that. He makes R-rated violence man movies that I fucking love to watch. But no, this is so different than any other Scorsese movie that I've seen. And I get there's tons. I mean, there's so many more. He's directed so many different kinds of movies, but I associate him with gangster movies, heavy cursing, violence, mob movie shit, Like, to watch this, I was just like, holy fuck, this was cool. It was nice to look at, to see his directorial, like, talents shown in a different way. And I really liked it. I really did. It was cool.
I'll ask you guys, and it'll probably, we'll probably end up talking about the end of the movie in this discussion, but How did you like the kind of delusion scenes versus the reality scenes, and were those lines ever blurred for you to the point where you weren't actually sure what you were watching?
At first, for a second, it was kind of didn't realize what was going on, but I think that was kind of the point. I think they wanted you to be kind of confused what was going on for a second, but then it was pretty clear every time they did it after that. What was going on. It was kind of going on in his head. I did think when he walked into the summer house, wherever it was, when Jerry Lewis was playing golf, I thought that was a delusion at first because...
Loved that scene.
It was great. But at first I'm like, he's thinking about him in the future, talking, like going to his his house and like meeting his friends and stuff, and then I realized, oh, he actually did this.
I mean, I'll admit we're introduced to this concept that not everything we're gonna see is actually happening when he's kind of faking this conversation between him and Jerry Lewis, and they're having like dinner together, and then it cuts to Robert De Niro in his basement, and that's when you realize like, oh, he's kind of playing both parts. We're watching what's going on in his mind, and I'm like, okay, this is an interesting way of portraying this. I'm on board with it. And for most scenes that continue on through the movie, I was questioning it from the very beginning. When he goes to dinner with what's Diane Abbott's the girl he's interested in? What's her name?
Lady, something.
Oh,
Rita.
Rita, yeah.
When he goes to like dinner with Rita, I'm like, is this happening? Okay, I think it's happening. When they go to the summer house, I'm like, is this happening? Okay, I think it's happening. Even the first car ride, like, I think the when he jumps on the limo is before we're introduced to this idea of delusions, but then it retroactively was making me thinking like, wait, did that actually happen? So I very much enjoyed this whole concept and how it was executed.
I tried to pick up, like, I was looking, like, once that idea was introduced, I was trying to look and see, like, are there cues that he's in, like, his fantasy or if it's reality? And at first I thought it was maybe, like, the music or something. I was trying to listen to, like, music, because some of the scenes had music in the background, some of them didn't. I couldn't find anything that was a dead giveaway, whether it was delusions or reality. I don't know if either of you guys picked up on anything, but I couldn't find anything, because I was doing the same thing, Jeremy. I was searching. I couldn't tell some of the scenes, and the movie's over, and I still don't know.
Yeah, like with the delusion, like that scene where he is at Jerry's house is, I think, my favorite scene, because it's like you see his crazy like start to build up, and like the fact that he goes back into the building after they've already had security take him out, like that's like the first instance of it. But then like you see his real crazy when he goes to that house. That's my favorite scene in that movie by far, because it's so cringy, and it's so like, I feel so bad for this woman, like Rita. I feel so bad for her, and that she has to talk about this.
Guy who's like,
and the butler guy like is funny.
Yeah, he is one of the best lines in the movie, I think.
Yeah, but like that scene in general is like, but like to your overall point of the delusions, I think it's funny because I feel like everyone does this in general in their minds. We kind of doze off and we daydream and things, but like he lets it become his whole life, and he genuinely believes them, which is like a really interesting point for a movie to actually explore.
Rick and Ben, I think you both brought up the ending kind of vaguely in our spoiler-free section there. Do you want to elaborate on that at all?
Rick, I'll let you.
Yeah, it just kind of threw me off. I completely expected it to go the route where he would have been taken off the stage, gone to jail. Like, I thought when he was performing, he would have bombed. Like Joker. Like, he starts telling jokes and no one's laughing. I thought that was going to happen, and then he was going to go on some like murder rampage or kind of let out his crazy in a way. But once he started, like, the audience was laughing, I was really interested. I didn't see that coming at all, and it kind of really, it brought me into the ending, which I really liked. Like, I think it made me like the ending a lot more than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I think it made me like the movie a lot more, because it's like, it's not like this huge twist where it's like blowing up to like a regular twist in a movie where it's like you think it's one character who killed someone and then it's like another person. It's like just a twist, and like you legit thought he was gonna bomb, and I was thinking of Joker, and I'm like, he's going to shoot this pretend host or whoever the fill-in host, or like he was gonna go back and kill Jerry. Like that's what I thought was gonna happen, and then like they have him go out and kill. And he does this great job. And then, I mean, I think it's like a little joke where like he becomes like this superstar. And like when he gets out of prison, like he has his run, and it looks like, do they give him a TV show? Is that what it is, or just a stand-up thing? But
I was under the impression that was a delusion.
Same.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was real.
I thought that was. I couldn't tell, honestly.
I thought everything after.
I was too tipsy, but
I thought everything after. So like he did kill. I think that was real because he's in the bar. He turns it on the TV. And as far as I can tell, that happened, and then he gets arrested, and then I think once the voiceover comes in and starts narrating everything that happened after he got arrested, that seems too good to be true, and I think it's part of his delusion.
I agree.
Which is also, I didn't even think of that, but that makes it even better to me too, that we're thrown into his delusion. And like at the very end, I like when movies make you think at the end where it's like, oh, did this actually happen or not? And I'm glad I didn't even catch that, because now you guys can point it out, and it makes me like the movie even more. Exactly, another layer to it, like a stupid premise of an idea of a movie that just like it shouldn't have worked, but it worked really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I actually love his set at the end. It was like funny. Like I really actually laughed at his set at the end. And yeah, Jeremy mentioned I really think everything after that, like when the cops do take him and he goes to jail, that is delusions. That's at least the way I looked at it. But yeah, I mean,
I thought it was real.
You don't know though. See, but you can make a case that it is real. And
I'm gonna make my case.
Well, here's the thing, guys. It's all fake. It's a movie, but
so I'm gonna make my case for why I think it was real. So imagine someone goes on Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon's not there. He starts killing. At the end, he starts making jokes like, yeah, I had Jimmy Fallon locked up, and everyone's laughing because they think it's a joke, all this stuff. Turns out it's all true. Guy goes to jail. It's going to be all over the news. If he writes a memoir, that's being sold. People are going to buy that because he kidnapped.
He's crazy.
He kidnapped. He's super crazy. And he told the audience exactly what he did, and they all thought it was a joke. That's headlines.
Yeah, but there is a law. I forgot what it is, but felons can't profit off their crimes. It's like a thing about serial killers. If they sell, like, if serial killers, I mean, this is different, but if serial killers sell like their stories, they can't profit off that. There's like, I forgot, there's a law. One of the famous,
yeah, but it doesn't mean they can't write it. Like he still wrote it.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. He's talking about him being rich and having a TV show after, and it makes me think like, no, you couldn't, because they don't let you profit off your crimes. Like, you can't profit off a kidnapping.
I don't entirely disagree with you, Rick. I think that's more of a 2020 perspective as opposed to a 1982 perspective, though. I think post-internet, you can find enough crazy people who are like, yeah, I can forgive this guy for kidnapping a late-night host and support his career. I think that would have been harder to do in 1982.
I disagree, and you're wrong.
You know what? Fair enough. I have got no counter. What was the other thing I was going to ask?
I'll fill in time. Fun fact, when the lady told the Jerry Lewis character, Jerry Langford, to get to, he wishes he had cancer, that was a real thing that happened to Jerry Lewis.
He got cancer?
No. He signed an autograph for someone, and the lady's like, I hope you get cancer, because he didn't do something, I guess. But I think that was an actual thing that happened to him in real life.
I believe it. So I'll ask you guys, and Rick, I don't know how many Scorsese movies you've seen, but where does this rank for you among Scorsese movies? I will start not by giving my ranking, but by saying I think of Scorsese as just like a really premier director. If you watch one of his movies, you're not going to catch too many flaws. There were a lot of like technical flaws in this movie where like the edits, when it cuts from one angle to another, all the characters are in different positions. Weird, not very smooth camera work at times. Like I thought that there were some like almost rookie mistakes in the technical behind the scenes aspects of this movie. Didn't take away from the story itself and how much I liked it.
Do you think those are possibly giveaways that it was part of his fantasy though?
No, because the scene in particular that I'm thinking about is when he's going into the office and he's talking to the receptionist lady. I mean, there's multiple instances of this, but the one that stuck out to me the most is he's talking to that lady and he kind of relaxes and stands up straight, and then it cuts to a different angle and he's kind of like leaning and hunched over.
I just immediately think of a defense for Scorsese, thinking that he probably meant it, because, like I look at him as like the best director, and if he's making mistakes like that, I assume they're intentional. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't pick up on them, so I don't know.
I noticed one where Sarah Bernhardt's character, forget her name, and they were walking down the street and they stopped and they were arguing, and then it cut to them continuing the conversation, but they were like mid-walk.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that one as well. So, I mean, that withstanding, whether or not that makes, that influences your rank at all, where does this kind of rank for you as far as Scorsese goes?
Well, it's under Goodfellas, because that's my favorite. I'll probably put it under Casino. That's also really good. Under Wolf of Wall Street. Love that. Maybe Over the Irishman. I think that was just too long. That is just painful to watch. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've seen a lot of his besides like Casino and Goodfellas. I've seen 1,000 times.
I'll go before you, Bob. My thinking is Wolf of Wall Street's probably my favorite. And then you get to like Goodfellas. And then there's like movies that I haven't seen, like so that you could add in like I don't know where Raging Bull is, where Taxi Driver is, where Casino is. But like and then like Shutter Island. I think this movie's better than Shutter Island because it feels like there's like the twist ending in Shutter Island, but like one that you can actually wrap your head around and talk about. But like this movie feels like a different idea and a different concept, and I think they make it work, so that feels better to me. But like I think Wolf of Wall Street, Goodfellas like are the top two, and then Departed I put ahead of it too. So like those three for sure, and then like just based off me not seeing the other movies, I would put this movie like fourth in my Scorsese list.
Yeah, I would probably. Goodfellas is my number one. Wolf of Wall Street's probably my two. Casino's probably my three. Oh man, it's tough for me. I don't know. Like I like The Departed, and it's one of my favorites. I'd probably put this right under Departed, but I definitely like this more than like something like Shutter Island. Yeah, but like this is upper echelon. I'd probably say this is like my 4. Yeah, but it's close 4 though. Like this could possibly crack the top 3 Scorsese movies for me. But this is like outside the top 3, but close, knocking on that door of top 3.
It's interesting that you and Ben both put it under Shutter Island, because I think of all the Scorsese movies, this one hits me on a similar level that Shutter Island did. But I might put it like just below Shutter Island. That being said, I have Shutter Island ranked a lot higher than you guys do. I won't go through my entire list, but I think this and Shutter Island and Wolf of Wall Street probably make my top 3. Maybe Goodfellas would rank one of those out, but I mean, like I said, I consider Scorsese just kind of an expert in his craft. Other than Shutter Island, I don't know that he has too many other movies that have these kind of themes that linger with me that I'm thinking about 24 hours later. As good as they are, I just don't think that they all have that, which is something I like a lot.
Sorry. I'm surprised that the big movie boys haven't put The Departed in the Hall of Fame for it being a Scorsese movie with Mark Wahlberg.
We do need to review that.
It's been
we do need
shout-outs.
to review that.
No, we got to save that one.
Our last episode.
Yes. Next week.
That's all, that's all you'll know. All right. Are there any final thoughts on The King of Comedy? I almost said Shutter Island.
Go watch Taxi Driver and then look at Joker completely differently.
Yeah. Go watch Taxi Driver. I'm gonna watch Taxi Driver within the next week, and then I'm gonna just have a new podcast where we just talk shit about Joker every week.
Well, maybe we'll have to do that. Maybe I will watch Taxi Driver as well. This was a surprising hit for me. I did not expect to like it as much as I did. I will say that.
Yeah, and the fact that we had to spend $4 on it, I'm glad it was an actual good movie.
Well worth Liz's money right there. I have your credit card hooked up.
All right. Well, Rick, thank you very much for joining us. Maybe the people will be able to hear this one.
Yeah, you never know.
Like I said, I make no guarantees. But assuming you did hear this podcast, then we thank you very much for listening. And remember, it's better to be a king for a night than a schmuck for a lifetime. We'll see you next week.